Back now with Craig Button and Frankie Corrado here in studio. Guys, we did the math. There's a better than 90% chance the Toronto Maple Leafs are going to face Boston or Florida in the opening round of these playoffs. Heading into last night's game, many were saying Boston would be a better matchup for the Leafs. Then the Leafs got thumped. They haven't beaten the Bruins since November 2022. Frankie, that was a bad night for the Leafs. Was it a sign of things to come or just a blip for them?
I don't think it's necessarily a sign of things to come, but there's one thing that's very evident when the Leafs play the Boston Bruins. They do not have an answer for David Pastrnak. And there's a number of singular things that may happen over the course of the game when the Leafs play the Bruins. Bruins have really good goaltending. There might be some defensive lapses. They might not win the special teams battle. Over the course of the season, we see the Leafs play games where they win all three of those things. But one thing is a constant when they play the Bruins. They don't have an answer for Pastrnak. And right now, Pasternak's playing the right wing. Who do the Leafs have on the left side of the ice playing D? It's Morgan Rielly. It's Simon Benoit. It's TJ Brodie. There's no answer there. Even their left wing, they don't have an answer for David Pastrnak. So that's the biggest thing that I see as a hurdle for when the Leafs play against the Bruins.
So just quickly, they didn't have an answer for the Florida Panthers last year either. Yeah. What I will say is this commentary is brought to you by Captain John Tavares. And after the game against Boston on Monday night, he said, our defense was not anywhere near good enough compared to what their defense was. And he talked about both ends of it. He talked about how well they defended against a very good offensive group in Toronto and how poorly Toronto defended in front of their own net. The same issues that keep rearing their ugly head for the Toronto Maple Leafs when they play good competition, and I'm talking interconference, is the blue line. The blue line's not good enough. You have Morgan Rielly, and then there's a significant drop-off. You get Lyabushkin. He's epoxy. He's glue. He's a Band-Aid. You have to do that when you have injuries. They're not good enough on the blue line to beat the best teams, in my view. And unless that improves, I don't see them going deep in the playoffs.
Okay, but I want to talk offense just for a second. Auston Matthews hasn't scored in 4 of his last 5 games. The games that he was held off the score sheet, the Bruins, the Rangers, the Avs, and the Golden Knights. At the moment, Matthew Knies is the first-line left winger with him. Frankie, is that a spot Brad Treliving absolutely has to upgrade in order to help Auston Matthews between now and the deadline?
I don't think so. I've liked Matthew Knies' game. I think when he plays with that dog, let's call it, like when he plays with that, I'm going to hound some pucks, I'm going to be heavy and hard to play against, he adds an element to that line where it helps facilitate a little more room for Matthews and Marner to make those plays. So I don't have an issue with Matthew Knies playing that high in the lineup, but he's got to do it consistently. That's the thing. When you're playing with those kinds of players and you're going to play those matchups, you can't fall in and out of it. And listen, we've heard from Matthew Knies this season talking about how it's been a grind. It's his first year pro, all that kind of stuff. That doesn't really matter when it comes to playoff time. You have to be able to ride shotgun with those guys and do what you do very well to help facilitate for those other two players.
Going back to John Tavares. He said their defense didn't allow us to get any opportunities. That's what it takes to win in the playoffs. So as good as Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner and William Nylander and their offense is, when you have really good defenders and you have a really good ability to defend hard inside the dots, that's what it takes to win. You just named the team. Why did Vegas win last year? Great defense. Why did the Colorado Avalanche win? Great defense. You go all the way back. Well, the formula, hang on, the formula hasn't changed. The formula hasn't changed. I'm not worried about the offense. I'm not worried about the blue line for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yeah, you got to try to find a way to score against good defenses. But Toronto Maple Leafs' biggest challenge is on the blue line. And I have no problem with Matthew Knies. Unless you're going to get Brad Marchand, then I'm fine there.
So what happened last year with Vegas is they had horses down the middle of the ice. So everyone looks good. The defense looks good. The wingers look good. When you have that kind of horsepower, those ponies in the middle of the ice, then you can play the defensive zone that you want to play. Then you can be a heavier team to play against. For me, it's not so much what Matthew Knies does as the left winger on the first line. It's what's happening down the middle of the ice. The second line right now for Toronto, that is not constructed to be a successful line in the playoffs. They're not good enough in their own zone. So you could have the horses on the back end, but if you don't have them down the middle of the ice, I just think it's not working in unison correctly.
All right.
I disagree there.
It's good that you disagree because then it makes us a good, healthy debate.
That blue line for the Vegas Golden Knights, they play defense.
For sure.
They play defense.
For sure. Not denying that.
And they had Jack Eichel and 3 other centers. And you can't tell me that the Toronto Maple Leafs don't match up with Matthews against any center. The Boston Bruins are another good example. Can't tell me that they match up with Toronto up the middle of the ice.
And the debate
Yeah.
continues. That's why Brad Treliving is trying to decide which direction to take between now and the deadline on Friday.